you take it, you
give it to an Okada driver.
On family.
No, he can even pretend he's passing and just
drop it on the floor.
Drop it on the floor and go.
Or go and leave it at some police station or radio station. If you don't bring that ID back.
How that thing could happen within a period of 5 to 10 minutes.
Which part of Cannabis is this?
The St. Teresa's Road.
Oh, around what time of the day?
6:37.
Were there plenty people there?
There's always plenty people there.
That's a main road.
There's always plenty people there.
It's a narrow road.
Before you get to Sand Lake and all those things.
Yeah, it's a very busy road.
And they stole your bag.
When I came back to the car, I realized that there was something on the driver's seat. I switched on the light and I realized that all the...
But how did they smash the glass?
Oh, that one.
There's a trick to it. What they did to me, for mine, I was parked in front of my parents' house. It took all of 3 minutes. They use a duster. And there's a stone in the duster.
So he crashes it as if he just passing.
Yes, but you won't hear
and the person behind will then put his hands very quickly and they are moving.
Right, the motor, then they go.
Uncle Levi,
you bring that in.
Yes, sir. This one, because Kojo is discombobulated.
Yeah, this morning he's all over the place.
It's not good at all. In the meantime, we have lots of things to do. We'll start with the newspaper review. Godfred.
Front page of the Daily Graphic: COVID-19 infections. State institutions shut down. GS investigates death of KNUST senior high school student. Headmistress interdicted.
Now, if you go to the Ghanaian Times, voter registration exercise, EC targets 15 million Ghanaian voters for December 2020. KNUST senior high school headmistress interdicted over death of student. Government spends over 233 million on nationwide free water supply. And COVID-19, Chief Justice self-isolates for 14 days.
Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper: top judge dead, CJ isolates. Comes with a photo of the Chief Justice Eninia Boa. EC exceeds target. I'll give you details. Citi performs well in first half. An education minister recovers from COVID-19.
The Chronicle: ex-GPHA manager pays 1.2 million Ghana cedi for DG job, oil license, accuses national security operative of defrauding him. Increment in lorry fares is justified. This is an NDC MP. And Domelovo saga: Akufo-Addo has not breached any law. This is the government.
Front page of the Daily Statesman says over 2.2 million register under EC's phase 1 voter registration. Citi's performance all-time best since 2014, according to Dr. Ebenezer Ashley.
The new crusading guide: CJ in isolation over COVID-19 fears. KNUST senior high school headmistress interdicted over death of student. EC unveils Let the Citizen Know campaign. Lawyer runs from court over 600,000 Ghana cedi debt, and some other stories.
Front page of the Daily Heritage newspaper, finally from me, Bernard. Santor residents to is it Santor or Santio?
It's spelled Santio, but it's pronounced Santor.
Okay, so Santor residents to sue TDC.
Right.
Yes, I'm going to give you details. This is a story that is close to the hearts of my two friends here. JM's choice of Professor Pukwajiman, heartwarming African women lawyers. Alleged associate of Asafo Mafu granted 1.4 million Ghana cedis bail.
The Business Finder: woes of businesses persist despite partial easing of COVID-19 restrictions. Promote Ghana's cocoa in Asia. This is ICU. And 1,174 get financial clearance to beef up fight against poor sanitation. If you check the Vanguard, confirmed 64 doctors struck with coronavirus. We can't suspend voters registration exercise. EC and Subin MP, others cited for contempt.
Okay, so let me give you the front page of let me give you the main story from the Daily Graphic and Bernard, big one. COVID-19 infections. Yesterday we were discussing this. State institutions shut down. The devastation being visited on workplaces by the COVID-19 pandemic has led to the temporary shutdown of the offices of some state institutions. As the disease hits hard, at least 5 major institutions in Accra and Tema have indefinitely shut their doors to prevent further spread and save lives. The head office of the Ghana Cocoa Board in Accra, the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited, the Ministry of Finance and the Supreme Court have all been closed after some members of staff of those establishments tested positive for the disease. The Tema office of the Ghana Great Company was also temporarily closed for fumigation after a member of staff had tested positive for the virus as well. Now, at a press briefing on June 25, the Minister of Information, Mr. Kojo Ponkroma, had indicated that the government had identified workplaces as contributing to the growing numbers in COVID-19 cases. The story then goes on to break down what is happening at the various buildings. For instance, the Ministry of Finance, when the Daily Graphic visited Bernard, the place was quiet, the entrance was locked.
So the whole Ministry of Finance is closed. They are all working from home. Amazing.
Now, if you check other stories related to COVID-19, Chief Justice self-isolates for 14 days. This is the center spread of the Times. Now, the story says the Chief Justice, Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah, has gone into self-isolation for 14 days upon the advice of his doctors in compliance with COVID-19 protocols. A press statement issued in Accra and signed by the Judicial Secretary Cynthia Pamela Addo said his lordship will be working from the Chief Justice's official residence at Cantonment.
Now, in line with that, Bernard, yesterday another big story was the KNUST Senior High School story. And if you go to page 16 of the Daily Graphic, it has an update, and it says that GS investigates death of KNUST Senior High School student. The Ashanti Regional Director of Education, Miss Mary Uswechan, has been directed to take over the management of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology Senior High School, while the headmistress, Miss Felicia Samoa Dankwa, steps aside for investigations into the circumstances that led to the death of a final year student of the school. A release signed and issued by the Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Education Service, Miss Cassandra Chumampofo, said the interdiction of the headmistress was to pave way for management of the GS to investigate the circumstances that led to the student's death.
Now, let me give you...
On this KNUST thing,
Okay.
the Chronicles editorial says KNUST Senior High School Bruhaha, interdiction is good, but the truth must be told. And they are basically saying that the COVID-19 protocols have been widely circulated. So the school authorities should have called the COVID-19 center or gone to any of the health centers close to get some attention for the boy.
Still on schools.
The GS should interrogate this to them.
So I have two stories. I have the latest COVID-19 figures, but I also have in Prioso SHS where 9 students are in isolation after suspected COVID-19 infection. So the Prioso Senior High School in the Kwewu South District of Eastern Region is the latest secondary school to receive a COVID-19 scare. It has recorded 9 suspected cases of the virus and is awaiting test results. They've been in isolation for the rest of the students, and their samples have been taken as of Tuesday. All the samples were sent to Accra for confirmation. Kwewu South Director of Education, Ofosu Kwachi, told Citi News. And he said measures have been put in place to assure the rest of the students of their safety. Now, GAS and GHS are currently tracing contacts of infected persons in other schools. Accra Girls and Konongo Wesley SHS are among the schools with confirmed cases of the virus. Now, let me tell you about the latest numbers. Ghana's COVID-19 count, this is citynewsroom.com, hits 22,822 after 854 new infections. Now, the latest update as announced by health officials puts the number of active cases at 5,129, follows the recovery of 17,568 persons, but the number of new cases is now 854. Number of deaths remains 129. According to the GHS, 13,673 of the total number of cases were discovered after enhanced contact tracing, while 9,146 were detected through general surveillance. And we are told 24 and 8 of the active cases are severe and critically ill, respectively. Greater Accra 12,560, Ashanti 4,824, and then the other regions follow. Western Region 2,045, Central 1,064, and Eastern 855. So that's your latest COVID-19 update for you. Let's move to other stories.
Okay, other stories, Bernard. The EC says that they are going to register 15 million Ghanaian voters. Now, that story is on the center spread. It's in the center spread of the Times. It says the Electoral Commission intends to register 15 million Ghanaians in the ongoing registration exercise. The figure represents about half of the country's 30 million projected population. So far, the Commission has issued 2.2 million ID cards to prospective voters following the first phase of the ongoing mass registration exercise, which ended on
Meanwhile, the NDC
Sunday.
says the EC has lost control of the enforcing COVID-19 safety protocols. This story is from yesterday's press conference. Opposition NDC has warned that there could be far-reaching consequences if the EC does not enforce COVID-19 safety protocols at centers in the ongoing mass voter registration exercise. Party's Director of Elections, Elvis Ankra, who was speaking at the press briefing on Wednesday, said the observation indicates a violation of all COVID-19 safety protocols, despite assurances by the EC of to ensure compliance. Then Christian Council is also speaking. Published roadmap for 2020 elections, according to the Christian Council. Story on citynewsroom.com. Christian Council of Ghana has asked the Electoral Commission to come up with a clear roadmap for the 2020 general elections following the commencement of the registration exercise. They also said they would observe the registration to make sure that the safety protocols are being adhered to.
Well, staying with the NDC, the Daily Heritage says that GM's choice of Professor Opokwajiman heartwarming, and that's a statement coming from the African Women Lawyers Association, who have extended a congratulatory message to her.
I wanted to talk about education because
Okay.
if you go to Nigeria, If you go to Kenya,
Yes.
there are indications that there are versions of WASI will not happen. So for Nigeria, we are told that no unity school will participate in scheduled WAEC exams, according to Adamu. And there's a story that's running that says that they have cancelled the WASI. That story came last night. In Kenya as well, we are told that the school season has been closed. But if you go to, if you come to Ghana, if you go to myjournalline.com, Ghana will go ahead with WASI exam despite Nigeria's pullout. This is GES. Story by Cornelius Kwekuafre, Deputy Director General of GES, Kwabena Tando, says Ghana will go ahead with the West Africa Senior Certificate Examination scheduled for July 20, despite Nigeria pulling out. His comments follow news of the federal government of Nigeria rescinding their decision to open schools and calling off the WASI following health and safety concerns of students in the country. Speaking on Joy PM Express, Kwabena Tando explained that the West African Examination Council was yet to notify Ghana of any such move by Nigeria. However, he said WAEC member countries had agreed to write the exams in August and September. Quote, all of them had agreed. We had communicated to that effect. While it was proposed that it was Ghana that was going to write a Ghana exam, all of our member countries, in a response from WAEC to the DG, or to my DG, to the Honorable Minister, was that all our member countries would write in August, September. We have not received any communication officially to the contrary, and usually we receive our communication from WAEC through officials of the Ghana Education Service. So basically, Ghana is going ahead to write the exam.
Still?
That's what he's saying, and there's no news to say to show that he's going to change that. So you can tell us what you think about that.
Well, Dr. Clement Apak is also saying close schools now to end spread of COVID-19 on campuses. That story
has been persistent for the past few days. He's still jumping from website to website.
Yeah.
All right. Now there's a few more. Kojo, let's come to you.
Let's go to business. Woes of businesses persist despite partial easing of COVID-19 restrictions. Now, the story by Isaac Edu for the Business Finder says that the business community in Ghana says it is cautiously optimistic about a boost in economic activity and growth prospects in the next 6 months, even with a total relaxation of the COVID-19 restrictions. The lifting of the 3-week partial lockdown some 6 weeks ago and the recent partial lifting of restrictions on social gatherings have made little or no impact on business activities. The AGI, the GUTA, and other business associations have told the Business Finder that their businesses are not picking up. Now, if you check the same newspaper, peasant farmers lament loss of farmlands.
I wanted to give you a story on the one village, one dam, then we can link it. So this story is from my Joy Online. Source is Albert Sorry. 90% of 1V, 1D dams cannot be used for irrigation purposes, research reveals. Then I'll bring you the reactions and then the other peasant farmers. A research conducted by the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana has revealed that about 90% of the dams constructed under government's One Village, One Dam initiative in the Upper East region cannot be used for irrigation purposes. The research further reveals that there was poor consultation with other government agencies, such as the district assemblies in the planning phase of the initiative, and as a result, the district assemblies could not effectively supervise the projects. The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, with funding from Oxfam, commissioned the research to examine the implementation of the One Village, One Dam initiative in the Upper East region. The study aimed to, among other things, establish the number of dams constructed within the region, examine the appropriateness of the dams in serving domestic and agricultural purposes, and determine the usefulness of the dams in addressing the water requirements of the beneficiary communities during the dry season. Led by Professor Joseph Yarrow of the Department of Geography at the University of Ghana, it established that so far, 83 out of the 140 dams promised by the government have been completed. That represents 59%. Professor Yarrow said people in beneficiary communities were not involved in the site selection, the kind of dams, and what they could be used for. He said normally, when we have projects of this nature, we do environmental and social impact assessment, but these were taken for granted and left out, and that subsequently has come back to haunt us. As we have realized, dams have been abandoned, and little lands that families had, which were given for dams, have become degraded lands that we cannot use for anything. Then he says, about 90% of the dams constructed under the One Village, One Dam initiative in the Upper East region cannot be used for irrigation purposes. Quote, most of these dams can be classified basically as domestic or livestock dams in terms of use. So irrigation really is out of the question. For probably 90% of these dams, it is not possible for irrigation. He said, unquote. The report will be discussed later on the show. Meanwhile, the minister has been on Sander point blank. It is wrong to assume 1V, 1D projects aren't fit for irrigation. Minister of State for Agriculture, Nura Jele, has denied the claim that the majority of the dams constructed under government's One Village, One Dam up north are in a poor state. The minister on point blank said it will be unfair to assess the effectiveness of these dams since they are still under construction. I am disputing this. We set out to do over 560 dams for people in the rural areas, and out of this, we have given out contracts for 457. They are at various stages of completion. If a dam is not completed, you can never judge a dam. You cannot say a dam that is not completed and contains little water cannot last. Well, the story then says 88 dams have so far been completed, while over 400 are currently at various stages of completion since the initiative was rolled out, according to the minister. Well, but the people who did the research said they used the ones that had been finished, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe of the ones that are finished, 90%, according to them, are not useful. But the minister says only 88 of the 400 and something have been done. So we'll see. We'll get more details on this story later. Let's come back to you.
Let me give you this peasant farmer story. The story says about 300 smallholder farmers at Patron Kope community near Ofako in the central region say their livelihoods are threatened by increasing activities of sand winners, land guards, and the acquisition of farmlands by private people. Over 1,200 acres of farmlands had been taken over by land guards and chiefs. The challenges the farmers maintained were adversely impacting their lives and had compelled them to migrate into other places. Now, one of them who spoke to the newspaper said that usually when they plow their lands to begin farming, the next thing they see is that developers will come and drop sand and stone there and start construction. And a lot of them are losing their livelihood. So there should be something done to protect their land so that they can continue to farm.
Okay, let me take you to Graphic Business. That's in the Daily Graphic, page 33. Import duties target missed by 427 million Ghana cedis. Revenue generated from taxes on goods imported from other countries yielded only 829 million Ghana cedis in the first quarter of this year, 34% short of the target. This against a target of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. Okay, then let me give you the Santor story quickly. That story is on page 5 of the Daily Heritage. Residents of Santor, which is within the Bunkatamansu municipality of the Greater Accra region, are up in arms against the Tema Development Corporation for the alleged illegal takeover and encroachment on lands earmarked for schools, hospitals, and a cemetery. The angry residents, who held banners amid singing and drumming whilst protesting along the areas where the lands were being encroached upon, directed their anger the managing director of the TDC, Madam Alice William Kwoso, and a Chinese company developing the lands. Nane Jane To, the spokesperson of the residents, told journalists the TDC had sold their lands meant for a school, a park, and a cemetery to an investor, that they would not allow this to happen.
I wanted to take you global if you have time.
Okay.
East Africa, Kenya's Cabinet Secretary Magoha cancels national exams in Kenya as COVID-19 bites. Story on the East African. It says Kenya's Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha announced Tuesday that national examinations will not take place this year as the COVID-19 pandemic has rendered the academic and school calendar lost. As such, the minister said Standard 8 and Form 4 students who were to sit the exams this year will do so next year. Stakeholders have shelved the initial proposal to reopen schools in September for Standard 8 and Form 4 candidates, he said. The minister also announced that all basic learning institutions will reopen in January next year, as that is when the virus curve is expected to have flattened. Then let me take you to Nigeria to give you that story. This is on This Day Live. It says, federal government reverses self, cancels reopening of schools. It says, story by Omololu Ogunmade. The federal government in Abuja reverses earlier announcement authorizing schools to reopen for students participating in senior secondary certificate examination and junior secondary certificate exams. It said the schools under the control of the Ministry of Education will remain closed until it is safe to reopen them. It also cancelled Nigeria's participation in the West Africa Examination Council examination as scheduled this year as a result of the spread of COVID-19. Also affected by the cancellation are students qualified to participate in common entrance exams. Now, then they give the details that a member of the Presenter Task Force and Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Mwajubu, had on Monday, July 6, announced that schools will reopen for graduating students on August 4. But the Minister of Education, while addressing the State House correspondence on Wednesday, after a meeting presided over by the President himself, said Nigerian schools remain closed until COVID-19 pandemic is brought under control. Then if you go to the BBC, Oxfam says 12,000 people a day could die from hunger than from the disease itself. It identified 10 countries as potential hotspots for hunger, including Yemen, DRC, and Afghanistan. And then lockdown has begun in India's West Bengal state. Australia's second largest city, Melbourne, has begun a second lockdown. And then UK's Leicester is also in lockdown. Meanwhile, in the US, Trump says US schools should reopen on schedule, despite a surge in several states. Globally, there are 12 million confirmed cases. Almost 550,000 people have died.
Okay. And Trump is moving to pull the US out of the WHO. Brazil's president has tested positive for coronavirus.
And Ivory Coast Vice President or Prime Minister Amadou Coulibaly has died after a cabinet meeting. He fell ill after a ministerial meeting. He had been chosen by the ruling party's candidate. He has been chosen as the ruling party's candidate for October's election after Alassane Ouattara said he would not seek a third term in office.
And just two quick updates on the stories Kojo gave us from the international community. Joe Biden has vowed to reverse the decision to withdraw the United States
from the
WHO if he becomes president. That's on page 9. And Jair Bolsonaro's cabinet also getting tested. And there's a public notice here, very interesting, Bernard. License for the cultivation of cannabis with 0.3% THC content on dry weight basis. This is coming from Narcotics Control Commission. It says that following the passage of the Narcotics Control Commission Act, the Narcotics Control Commission has received applications for license for the cultivation of cannabis. The Commission wishes to bring to the attention of the public that Section 43 of Act 1019 makes special provision relating to cannabis. Requisite for the implementation of the provision is yet to be passed by Parliament. As such, until the completion of Section 43 of Act 1019 is in place, no license shall be issued for the cultivation of cannabis with 0.3% THC content on dry weight basis. The public is
Why are you so interested in this story?
Oh no, they are saying that they are cautioning people against paying money.
I hear you. We'll talk about that if we have time. Thank you, Godfrey. Thank you, Kojo. That's all we have time for. That was the newspaper review. Coming up next is the Citi Business News.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation.